The last law of exponents, and the one that we did not talk about in the last video, is the law of negative exponents. So we don't like to leave any of our answers in negative exponents. We always want to leave them as positive. So even if you know how to do the problem, you've got to always convert those to positive exponents instead of negative exponents. And so this is the rule. So anything that's brought to a negative power goes to the bottom. So a to the negative n is equal to 1 over a to the positive n. So when you push it to the bottom, he becomes positive. And so just like our friends, we don't want negative friends around us, so we want to push those to the bottom of our friend list for now, so until they become positive again. So that's sort of one good way to remember it, is that you just keep those negative people out of your life and push them to the bottom of the friend list. Okay, so let's just try a few examples, and I'm going to show you two different ways to do them. I prefer to deal with the negatives at the end of the problem, but a lot of people like to go ahead and deal with the negative at the beginning of the problem. So we're just going to try them both or do a few problems both ways, and just so maybe whichever way makes sense to you, you just do it that way. Okay, so we're saying 5 to the negative 4 power times 5 to the third power. Sorry about that. So the base still has to be the same. So that is 5. Well, what do we do when we multiply exponents with the same base? Well, remember in our last video, we add them. So that is negative 4 plus 3. Well, negative 4 plus 3 leaves us with 5 to the negative 1 power. And then we like to think, okay, what do we do with those negative exponents? Well, we put them on the bottom and they become positive. Well, remember, anything to the first power, we don't really have to write that 1 up there. It's just assumed that it's always 1. So you can leave that off if you like, or you can leave it on there, either way. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If not, then this is the other way to do it. So if you wanted to deal with the 5 to the negative 4 first, let me see a different color. Let's go blue. So we've got 5 to the negative 4 times 5 to the third power. Well, you can deal with that 5 to the negative 4 first, and he becomes 1 over 5 to the fourth power. Then times 5 to the third power. And so remember, that's any whole numbers also over 1. All right, so now we're dealing with only positive exponents. And remember, it's just like fractions, top times top, bottom times bottom. So that's 5 to the third over 5 to the fourth. Well, then we're saying, okay, well, now it's a division problem. So 5 to the 3 minus 4, which is 5 to the negative 1, which is 1 over 5. So to me, that's a little bit longer, but if that makes more sense, do it that way. It doesn't matter. Okay, so now, on example number 2, we have 2 to the negative 3 power all squared. Okay, so remember, that base stays the same. Power to power rule tells us that we multiply. So 2 to the negative 3 times 2. We multiply our exponents, right? Power to power. So that's 2 to the negative 6. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And then what do we do with negative exponents? We put them on the bottom and they become positive. Final answer. Okay, so let's try another one. All right, so we've got all the same base. We've got a base of 8, a base of 8, and a base of 8. So I'm going to deal with the top first. So that's 8 to the negative 3 times 8 to the negative 5. Well, that is 8 to the, remember, we add those exponents, negative 3 plus a negative 5, all over 8 to the negative 9 power. Okay, so we've got negative 3 plus a negative 5. That gives us 8 to the negative 8 power all over 8 to the negative 9th power. Okay, so now we subtract those exponents because it's a division problem. And here's where sometimes I see a lot of mistakes is that people will drop one of those negative signs. So it's 8 to the negative 8 minus a negative 9. Well, remember, if you've got minus a negative, that really turns it into a plus. So that makes negative 8 plus 9, which is 8 to the positive 1 power, and you do not have to write that 1. All right, here's another. So here's one where it's a fraction, and it's brought to a negative power. So remember, when we did that rule, that is 5 to the negative 3 over 4 to the negative 3 power. They're both brought to that power. Well, 5 to the negative 3 power, we don't like that, and we can't do anything with those because we don't have the same base, so we can't divide them that way. Well, he needs to go to the bottom so that that 3 can be positive. So now the 4 raised to the negative 3 power, he's on bottom. Well, he needs to go to the top in order to be positive. And so that is your final answer. That's sort of a crazy one, I know. All right, so let's keep going. So 2 to the, we've got 2x cubed all raised to the negative 2 power. So remember that means 2 is raised to the negative 2 power, and x cubed is also raised to that negative 2 power. So 2 to the negative 2 power is needs to be put on bottom, and I just like to draw my line here. So 2 to the negative 2, he needs to go on bottom and be positive 2. Now x to the third times negative 2, that means x to the negative 6 power. So x to the negative 6 also needs to go on bottom so that it becomes positive, x to the positive 6. Well, what do we have left to go on top? Since there's nothing there, we just have a 1. And so that has to have that 1 up there if nothing is up there. Okay, so now let's see what we have here. All right, so 5x to the negative 4y cubed over 8x to the 5th times 3x to the negative 3y to the 5th over 6y to the negative 4. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we can't reduce any of our whole numbers, so let's just take one thing at a time, and let's deal with the top, and then let's deal with the bottom. So 5 times 3 is 15. X to the negative 4 times x to the negative 3 means negative 4 plus a negative 3 is x to the negative 7. All right, next, y to the third times y to the 5th. Add those exponents. Y to the 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Okay, so there's the top simplified. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. Okay. All right, so now the bottom. Let's do numbers. 8 times 6 is 48. X to the 5th, well, we don't have any other x's, so we're just going to say x to the 5th. We also don't have any y's, so y to the negative 4. Okay, so now let's see if we can simplify from here since we've simplified across. So 15 divided by 48, does that reduce? Yes, it does. Both are divisible by 3, so 15 divided by 3 is 5. 48 divided by 3 is 16. So we just reduced the fraction 15 over 48. Okay, so now we have x to the negative 7 divided by x to the 5th. So now we're working with our x's. So that means subtract negative 7 minus 5. That gives us a negative 12. Well, where does that need to go? Well, he needs to go on bottom so that he becomes positive. All right, 8. Now let's deal with the y's. We got y. And remember that that negative is on the bottom. It's 8y to the 8 minus a negative 4. Remember, do not drop that negative sign. So 8, that turns that into 8 plus 4. So that's 8 to the positive, or y to the positive 12. So he's going to go on top. All right, try another one like that. So again, let's do one more like that, and then we'll leave the last one. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. X to the negative 6 times x squared. Add those exponents. Negative 6 plus 2 is x to the negative 4. And then let's deal with our y's. Y to the 4th times y to the negative 3 is 4 plus a negative 3, so that's just y. Okay. Now, on the bottom, 6 times 12 is 72. And again, we don't have any x's to join with, so we have x to the negative 3, y to the negative 5. I think the key to these is just doing one thing at a time. Don't try to do too much stuff all at once in one step. Deal with your numbers, deal with your x, deal with your y, deal with your z, and then simplify from that. I like to do all the tops, I like to do all the bottoms, and then simplify tops and bottoms. So negative 8 divided by 72 gives us negative 1 over 9. Okay, so a lot of people will start getting confused about negative numbers. Negative numbers are still okay. We just don't like negative exponents. So you wouldn't switch any of your numbers just because they're negative. We don't do that. We only move those exponents. Okay, so we have x. Let's simplify this. So x to the negative 4 minus a negative 3. So that's negative 4 plus 3. That leaves us with x to the negative 1. So he needs to go on bottom and be positive. And again, we don't have to write that 1. All right, so now our y's. Let's deal with our y's maybe right over here. So we have y to the 1 power, because that's an imaginary 1, minus that negative 5 means 1 plus 5, which is 6. So y to the 6. Okay, so hopefully you're catching on to those. They're a lot of fun, I think, and I'm going to just leave this last one for the sake of time for your video, because I don't want them to be too long. And hopefully those will just be fun for you.